live on YouTube and Instagram. And hey, both of them started this time. Awesome. Today's topic, working harder. Got to work harder. So this term came up repeatedly in a movie I watched last week. There's a movie from the 80s called Fame. And it's about a bunch of kids who are attending the New York City High School for the Performing Arts. And, every one of these kids is just ridiculously gifted in certain areas. And so throughout the film, several of the kids are told by their teachers that, you aren't working hard enough. Now, have you ever been told you aren't working hard enough? And how much good did that do? Now, odds are it wasn't terribly helpful. Odds are it may have even been a little bit detrimental to the relationship. Now, I won't rule out that you weren't working hard enough, but I will. What my point is that just saying to somebody you need to work harder, it's not helpful because it's an accusation. It's not coaching. It's not instructive. And so, one of the common replies today comes from the great Mike Rowe from Dirty Jobs fame, and he said, "Yeah, it's because people say, work smarter, not harder," and then Mike Rowe has a great reply: work harder and smarter. And I don't disagree with that, but it's still fuzzy. It's what's smarter, what's harder, and so. You're still left to figure it out on your own unless someone is guiding you. And of course, that's why I'm here. So it is ultimately up to you to execute, but I want to give you a little help. And I just want to reiterate that, the way to phrase it is, okay, work harder is the correct answer if you're already doing everything that you should be doing and you're doing it correctly, that you've just got it nailed and you're just not putting enough hours in. And, sometimes though that you're already at 15 hours a day and you're like, I can't work any harder. Well, it comes back to where you got to change. But I love this quote from Dumbledore talking to Harry Potter, and he says, "It is our choices, Harry, that show what we truly are, far more than our abilities." And so, like going back to that example from Fame, every kid in that high school was there because he had passed auditions. They had already passed a bunch of hurdles. Their abilities were known. In most workplaces, you wouldn't be hired if it weren't known that you had the abilities. And so it is our choices, Harry, that show what we truly are, far more than our abilities. So you need to know what matters. If you can't make choices if you don't know what needs to matter. You can't make choices if you don't know what matters. So I'm going to jump over now. So far I've talked about Harry Potter, the New York City for the movie Fame, and all that stuff. So of course I'm going to now jump over to football, but I kind of love this example because, to those of us, I'm a fan of football, but I don't know football. But one thing I do know is that, like, for those of us that don't know, a lot of us will think, oh, being a quarterback is just being able to throw the ball. It's about having a strong arm or being able to see the field. And NFL coaches know that the most important foundational thing to be a great quarterback is your footwork. And there are a lot of guys that make it through college based purely on athletic ability and arm, and still don't have disciplined footwork. And you're not going to make it in the NFL over the long haul if you don't master that. So the thing about some of these things like footwork is that it's not glamorous. It's not, it can be pretty mundane. It's not as fun as just chucking the ball down the field, just the feel of, completing a pass in practice or whatever. So it's, it's in tackling those mundane things. It's getting the quarterback to Oh, you thought I was going to say to work hard on his footwork. No, it's not about getting him to work harder. It's about concentration. It's about immersion. It's about uh, dedication and understanding how they all need to come together. So, there's an element of working hard, but to just tell a quarterback you need to work harder on your footwork, he still doesn't know what harder looks like. And so a big part of it is mind body connection. And in the case of, I'll go back to the movie Fame, and if you've seen it, these kids are sitting there exhausted, sweaty. They, in their minds, have worked as hard as they can, and the teacher's still telling them to work harder, but they've missed the opportunity. They've missed the opportunity to actually coach the kid. Instead, they've just made an accusation. And so, they could have said, I want you to fully immerse yourself in the mind body connection of this work, and then build from there and have a conversation with the student, as opposed to, you need to work harder. Um, it just doesn't connect. So, how does it apply to business? Well, in business, again, like every endeavor, especially when there's teamwork involved, the whole work harder thing, and people are just gauging each other by, like, how many hours you put in, how many hours you put in. It's not relevant. And where, if you have that mentality, or, well, I won't say if you have that mentality, but where that mentality doesn't serve at all is when you go to start a business. And so, remember I've said, the three things. So the first thing you do, which people don't get right, is the first thing is to decide to start a business. I'm deciding to start a business, not, oh, I'm going to wait until the time's right, or I'm going to wait till I have enough information. No, the decision is up front. I'm starting a business. Then identify a problem you can solve. Then confirm there's a market for the problem you want to solve. And here's where businesses go sideways. And this is actually where also enormous companies go sideways, because the stability and the inertia of big organizations inherently don't want to look for new problems to solve. So if you decide that you want to start a business, you make the decision, I'm starting a business. Here's a problem I can solve. I'm now going to do the work up front, the due diligence, to see if there is a market for this problem that I can solve. And if the answer is, oh no, there is not a market for this, the answer for companies that have failed to adequately do that, and then they find out once they're up and running, or have gone all in on it or whatever, it's like, well, if we just work harder, we can make this happen. If you're doing the wrong things and you're working harder, it's not going to work. You're going to fail. We'll just work harder, or we have to work harder, it should just always send your antenna up. It should just put you on alert. It's like, oh, okay, they may not know what we actually need to do, if they being the leaders or whomever. I kind of just switch this over to the leaders, and all of a sudden you're the employee. But even if you're the person starting the business, the answer to there's not a market for this is always, what's a new problem I can solve? What is it that my organization can solve? What can I do? And so when you find out that you're not the solution, and you don't say the game's over, you say it's halftime. And you could have 6 or 7 half times before you get the business that really clicks. But the game's not over. It's halftime. We need to look for a new problem to solve. We need to see if there's a market for that new problem, we believe, and then pursue it. And so, whether it's starting a new business, whether it's changing a job, whether it's changing complete careers, I want to leave you with this quote from Abraham Lincoln. Always bear in mind that your own resolution to succeed is far more important than any other thing. I'm Robert J. Conley. I will see you next time.